See, VPP stand is something which is quite old. We have to accept that, it's not a new demand. Now we have a lot of people, young people who are looking for jobs. Now the job that should be meant for us, based on population, is going to them. Now of course, I don't agree with that, because that is not how reservation works. The average rank of the Khasi-Jaintia is much higher than the Garo, which means that in terms of development, access to amenities, Garos have been marginalized. They have been kept away from it for a very, very long time. We have to understand that reservation is not just an economic tool. It's a political tool. Because when you have reservation in government positions, and government are the one who are making all the laws and rules and regulations, and if you are not there looking at whether or not it's being made in your favor, that can be very, very dangerous.
Amid the debate over the review of Meghalaya's reservation policy, EastMojo reached out to author Bhogtoram Mawroh for his view on the simmering issue. Mawroh weighed in on the reservation roster, job quotas for Meghalaya's communities, and the voice of the People's Party's demands and protests.
See, we talk about reservation policy, it's part of the Indian constitution. And this happened because in India you have very strong caste system where lower castes, the backward classes were not given enough representation, enough benefits in the past. So the government of India, the new government of India, when the India got independent, they had the Constituent Assembly where they had debated about the constitution, what should go into the constitution. So there Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had made a case for reservation, so that there should be reservation of certain posts in the government services and also certain seats in the legislature or in the parliament to make sure that backward classes like ST, SC, at that time there were no OBCs, they could get representation out there. This is very important because we have to understand that reservation is not just an economic tool, it's a political tool. Because when you have reservation in government positions, and government are the one who are making all the laws and rules and regulations, and if you are not there looking at whether or not it's being made in your favor, that can be very, very dangerous. And that's the reason why we have our own state also, because we want to take charge of the administration. So reservation policy, in that sense, it's an empowering tool. It's part of the affirmative action. See, basically when we talk about roster, it's basically the application of reservation policy. Now our reservation policy says that we have 40% Khasi Garo, or for Khasi-Jaintia, 40% Garo, then you have the other ST, SC, 5% and then 15% for general category. Now for many years we had no roster, means the list. It's a list to show who has got appointed, from which category into the government services. Now, when you don't have that, what can happen is that a certain category or a subcategory within that category can actually take most of the reserved seats. Now, this actually has happened. So, therefore, what happened last year was that there were few people. There were some Garo applicant, so there were some Garos employees who had gone to the court to say that they have been passed over for seniority. So when the court, they reviewed the documents, they found that there was no roster. So if you don't have any roster, how do you know whether the reservation policy is being applied in the proper form? And so roster is basically that. It's a list which tells you who is being appointed from which category. See, even when we had, the statehood was being given, even at that time the statistics for Garo Hills, which my friends told me, and I really believed them, was very bad. But you had more people, qualified people, educated people in the Khasi-Jaintia Hills than you had in the Garo Hills. And the same situation even now exists. We look at the SDG report 2021, the district level SDG ranking that the Niti Aayog brought out. It clearly shows the Garo Hills district and the Khasi-Jaintia Hill district, there's a big disparity. If you rank them, because what the report does is that it ranks every district in terms of certain goals. So they have 17 goals. Out of the 17 goals, it ranks every district how they perform in those goals. Then when you look at the ranking, you find that the average rank of the Khasi-Jaintia is much higher than the Garo, which means that in terms of development, access to amenities, Garos have been marginalized. They have been kept away from it for a very, very long time. So, and that also is reflected also in your job. Because I remember seeing a statistics online, and they said that it's a statistics based on 2010 government data. Right? Now, I can't vouch for that. But logically, the way how I look at it, if you had an issue with roster system where you say, no, we should not go retrospective, we should go prospective, because you were afraid that there is a lot of job for the Garos that the Khasi-Jaintia have taken. Maybe for the reason that you had no qualified Garo at that point of time. But we also know in Meghalaya, there's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of backdoor entry, especially if you're already there in the government services. You can actually bring your own people in. So even among the Khasi-Jaintia, I would very much bet you that it must be the East Khasi Hills part which is taking most of the share. What about Jaintia Hills? What about Ribhoy? What about West Khasi Hills? Now you have Southwest Khasi Hills. What about them? So it will be very interesting to see that distribution of job even in those districts as well. So for me, I think the point is that the Garos have been marginalized till date. I don't know for what reason, maybe for political reason, maybe, but then it shows in the terms of the job. So therefore, it's not the Khasi who actually are not getting benefit, because according to the data which I mentioned, 60% of the jobs among the tribal workforce in the government is with the Khasis. So how is that they're getting marginalized? See, VPP stand is something which is quite old. You have to accept that, it's not a new demand. The demand is that you have to have reservation based on population. Now, Khasi-Jaintia have 46% of the population in the state. Garos have 31%. So they are asking is that why is it that a community which is smaller than us in population should get the same amount like we are getting, 40-40, right? The whole argument is that if you do that, now we have a lot of people, young people who are looking for jobs. Now the job that should be meant for us based on population is going to them. Now of course I don't agree with that, because that is not how reservation works, and that is not how also in the constitution reservation is being defined. You cannot have jobs based on population. It's based on backwardness, it's based on need. Now you may argue, that okay, no, we also are backward, but even then you have to follow the Indira Swamy judgment, which clearly mention out that reservation is based on inadequacy of a certain group in the services. It doesn't mean reservation is based on proportion. See, the court take cognizance of the matter, okay? There are many outcomes can happen. One outcome is that the court can say, you know what, bring it 50%, because that is what the judgment says in 1992. Now under the judgment they also say you can exceed that limit if there are extraordinary circumstances. They could be far-flung area, out of, far away from the mainstream, you have population characteristics very unique to you. Now, I don't know, are we far-flung in this day and age? We had the South Asian Games being held, we had many people coming into the state for tourism. I mean, like Shillong, Meghalaya is getting a lot of people coming from outside for tourism, and we have a lot of activities that are happening out here. I really don't know if we are really far-flung. I really don't know if we are really out of the mainstream. So maybe you can make the argument, but it depends on the court whether they will accept your argument or not. So when you think about, for example, the court coming in, the court might say, I don't agree with your arguments. I think there is no extraordinary situation, please take 50%. Now this will benefit whom? Will benefit the non-tribal, because they will get an open 50% category where they can actually get more jobs out there. But okay, it's good for them. But one group which could very benefit out of this are the anti-reservation group. Because see, they want to weaken reservation. They want no reservation. They don't want any reservation. So imagine now if they can take away this benefit we have in Meghalaya, 80%. This will be a template that can be followed, a precedent set that we can use in other states. Other states, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, not Manipur, actually Arunachal, where we also have more than 50% reservation. See, that's what the judge in the judgment, 1992 judgment, they did talk about this. They talked about can the legislature, can the executive actually make such a policy? And the court said yes, because when they say the state can make provisions for reservations, right? It means that state means the legislature. It can also mean the executive, from the highest level to the lowest level. So the executive has the full right to make a policy like that. Doesn't have to go to the legislature. But the people who are not happy with that, what they can always do is that they can always take it to the court and say, you know what, this policy that the government has brought out is not really constitutional. There is a lot of harm in this. So please take cognizance of that. But other than that, the policy is a legal instrument, and you have been having reservation based on that for the last 50 years. Do you mean to say that now all those 50 years reservation is invalid? I remember some time ago I had gone to a SC community in Meghalaya, not in Garos, in Meghalaya only, and you could see the level of deprivation is very, very high. So they have the right to actually demand for reservation for them. Now, but you look in terms of population, they are 0.58, less than 1% of the population. But we already have reservation for them. The ST and the SC, 5% combined together. So they can go into that. Also, they have the freedom to go into that non-tribal, the general category population, the general category seat as well. So yes, I do understand that they have the right to demand it, but there is a provision already in this policy to make sure that they get their due, because they're only less than 1%. but they're getting 5% of the jobs, reserved for them, where they can fight with the other ST, and they also have the 15% non-reserved posts. So I don't think, I feel yeah, they can demand for it, but I think our policy, the way it is right now, has taken care of that. So when you look at the population and you look at how much reservation is meant for them, open category, they're getting 15%. So 2% extra than what they should get if we follow the population principle. Now, so therefore I believe that for them, I think even for them also, I think this reservation policy has already enough benefits for them. Now they may demand, like maybe if there is a general category post, but ST can come into my post, I can't go into their post. So there is you can say there is an injustice on that part. So therefore there was actually a case on that 2017, Amar Singh versus Governor Meghalaya, where Honorable Justice Sen actually made the judgment that ST cannot come into the general in the open category.
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to East Mojo. For any queries, put them down in the comments section below and press on the bell icon for notifications.